Thank you for tuning in to another Spicy Toast video. Today we're going to be going over the top 5 game-ending champions. So that's a champion that when you play them, either that round or the next round that you're attacking, they are going to be ending the game right then and there. So we'll go over the top 5 champions for that and explaining how they're able to achieve that game-ending combo. Now, if you like this sort of video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And let's get into it. Up first for game-ending champions, we have Lee Sin. So Lee Sin, when you've played 10 spells, Lee Sin levels up. Normally you're going to be able to get him leveled up by the time he's on the board. We take a look at his star powers. So his rank 2 star power, round start, create a fleeting twin disciples in hand. Good way to buff up one of your cards, but also helps trigger his second star power, as well as just getting your Lee Sin leveled. So when you play your second spell in a round, give your strongest ally 4/4 this round. If you have him at 3 stars, this goes to an 8/8. So an absolutely massive buff to your strongest unit. And you're going to be trying to trigger that on your Lee Sin. So Lee Sin, he's normally going to be coming down leveled up. When you play a spell, give me Challenger this round. When you play another one, give him Barrier. So he's normally going to always be able to challenge with Barrier. But the important thing, when he levels up, Dragon's Rage enemies that I challenge. So Dragon's Rage, an ally kicks an enemy into the Nexus, striking both. Then even if the enemy somehow survives, recall them. So because of this, Lee Sin, if you're able to get Overwhelm on him, which you're going to be focusing on, you are able to do twice his power into the enemy Nexus. So first from Dragon's Rage, you're going to be using all of your damage, all of your power to hit the Nexus. And then if you have Overwhelm, his attack won't fizzle. And since the unit that he challenged is now gone, he will then just strike the Nexus again. So very powerful, especially with that 8/8 buff. Really able to end most games right there when you play him. I've also heard of people using Wriggle's Lantern on him to stacking up that impact, and that it triggers twice with Dragon's Rage. That's one that I haven't been able to test out yet, but if that also works, then that's adding even more damage on top of that to just further finish off the game. So very strong, very consistent. Not quite as consistent as some of the other champions we'll get into, but he definitely works out quite well to end the game. Next up for game-ending champions, we have Jinx, the loose cannon. So star powers first, when you play or discard a card, deal 1 to the enemy Nexus and 1 to a random enemy. 2 star, when you level up a champion, create a super mega death rocket in hand. So deal 4 to the enemy Nexus. Now with Jinx, she's going to be able to level up as soon as you play her for 4 mana. So the loose cannon's payload, when I'm summoned, discard your hand, then create that many Pow Pows in hand. The Pow Pow's 2-cost burst, deal 3 to a unit. So you're going to be discarding your entire hand. Because of the star powers, we know that's going to be doing damage for every card that's discarded to the enemy Nexus as well as the enemy board. So you're playing her, she immediately is unloading a ton of damage, clearing the board, as well as chunking down the enemy Nexus. You can put a Dreadway Chase Gun in front of this to put 2 more cards in your hand that'll get immediately discarded to deal even more damage. You can put a Gatebreaker after this, that once she levels up, has 1 more attack. She uses that to hit the enemy Nexus. So you drop her on the board, she essentially clears the enemy board and destroys the Nexus. If anything is left standing, you have Pow Pows to further kill enemy units. And then you can also have a super mega death rocket to further damage the enemy Nexus. So you're able to do massive amount of damage. You can also use like a Riptide battery to further increase the damage of when you play Jinx. So she is very much a game-ending champion. You don't even necessarily need to play her when you have the attack token, because normally she's just going to be ending the game right then and there. If somehow the enemy does survive, the board is now clear for you to just attack with Jinx and end the game. Very strong, and one of the best game-ending champions, as well as just one of the best champions in the game. Next, for game-ending champions, we have Oren. So first, taking a look at his star powers, the important one here is the first time you forge each round, forge again, and then you summon Oren's Forge, which gives you the ability to forge every single round. So you're trying to buff up an equipment throughout the entire game, getting in a lot of stats, and then when Oren comes down in the late game, he copies that equipment with all of its stats and uses that to end the game. So you can throw a Gatebreaker on Oren. He's then able to use all of his stats, hit the Nexus, and quite often can end the game. It's very strong, especially in earlier adventures. It's going to be a bit weaker against like a Galio or Aurelian Soul. If you have multiple Gatebreakers, then probably be quite fine. Normally, you're already going to be leveled up Oren, because you'll have a unit that can do that 8 damage. When Oren attacks, he forges twice, but the important part is when he levels up, he then summons a attacking Spirit of the Ram with his stats. So Spirit of the Ram, it'll have Oren stats, but Overwhelm. So you have Oren with his massive amount of stats. You have the Ram also with all of those stats. So that attacking alone can deal massive amounts of damage, often end the game. But you can throw a Gale Force, so you can attack twice with Oren. So if that first attack doesn't end them, then the second one will. You can also use a Corrupted Star Fragment for Oren to eat the Ram after it's created, thereby giving himself both Overwhelm and then all of his stats doubled. Doing that with the Gale Force, then you double his stats twice. It's going to end the game. I don't think anything can stand up to that if you're able to pull off that combo. So Oren is definitely one of the best game-ending champions. The only problem is getting to the point where you can play Oren for that 7 mana. Up next, we have Allowy. So Allowy, will first take a look at her star powers. The most important one is when allies attack, spawn 3. So you're trying to attack every single round, growing up your tentacle. So spawn, if you don't know, first time you spawn, you summon a 1/1 tentacle, and then if you already have one, you're growing that tentacle by 1/1 for each time you spawn. So you're trying to grow this tentacle as large as possible. Then on turn 4, you play Allowy. When she attacks, she spawns, and then she gains the strength of your strongest tentacle. She levels up when she's seeing the tentacles or herself deal 15 damage. Now, normally you're able to do that on your first attack, which then will level her up. When she levels up, now all of the time she spawns, it increases by 1. And then she now fully heals the tentacle, gets both its power and health, and uses that to attack. So with Allowy, you can use Shade Leaf and Crown Guard Inheritance. This way, your first attack, you level up, you then can attack again, using all the stats and growing even larger to do absolutely massive damage. Allowy has Overwhelm, so her damage is going to go through and hit the Nexus. You can give your tentacle Shade Leaf so that it's generally not going to be blocked. And so with this combo, right on turn 4, if you have the attack token, you're able to play her, usually destroy the enemy on the first attack. If they somehow survive, Allowy's leveled up, attacks again, destroys the Nexus, works out very well for ending the game, and she is one of the cheaper champions, so at 4 mana, being able to end the game right there, very powerful, one of the best champions for finishing off the game. For our honorable mention, we're going to give it to Kai'Sa. So Kai'Sa, the way she works is almost all of her units have Evolve. What Evolve means is that they get 2/2 once you've played units with 6 or more different unique positive keywords. So like Quick Attack, Challenger, Overwhelm, Scout. As long as you had 6 different unique keywords played, all of your Evolve units get that 2/2. If we take a look at these star powers, round start grants your strongest ally a random positive keyword, so helping that one unit get more keywords, as well as helping your overall evolve. Void touched allies with 3+ positive keywords have 2/2. Now if we take a look at Kai'Sa, I like to play her with the Blade Rack and Troll King's Crown, so you're giving all of your units Challenger and Overwhelm. Because of that, they're generally all going to have 3 or more positive keywords, meaning all of your units are getting 2/2, and then by this point you will be evolved in most situations, so then all of your evolved units are getting an additional 2/2. So you play Kai'Sa, your whole board grows absolutely massively, normally 4/4, and then when she attacks, deal 1 for each positive keyword I have to my enemies in the enemy nexus. This in combination, normally when you play her, you're able to attack her with all of her units and end the game right there. Now I will say Kai'Sa is a little bit more inconsistent than some of the other champions on this list. That's why we're giving her an honorable mention. She quite often does work as a game-ending champion, but a little bit too inconsistent to actually be one of the top 5, but the honorable mention goes to Kai'Sa. For our final game-ending champion and my personal favorite, we have Gwen, the Hallowed Seamstress. So Gwen's units mostly all have Hallowed. After I die for the rest of the game, when allies attack, Hallow your first attacker, giving it +1 that round. So since most of her units have that, whenever they're dying, they're increasing this buff. For the star powers, round start summon a Ghastly Band, so a ephemeral unit that's going to be dying, giving you Hallowed every single round. Needlework, +1 starting mana. When your leftmost attacker gains power from Hallowed, so does the attacker on its right. So your first 2 attackers on the left both gain the benefit from Hallowed. Now that is very good on its own, but it actually scales very well with Gwen. So attack, when an ally gains power from Hallowed, so do I. The important part of this is if you put Gwen in that second slot, she gains the benefit of Hallowed from the star power, but then she also gains the benefit of Hallowed from her text here, so she's able to get double the effect of Hallowed. Now, when she attacks, she's normally going to level up. Her level up is I've dealt 10+ damage. So you're getting all these extra stats. You are then attacking, leveling up. I suggest using Crown Guard. When you level up, you then rally so you can attack again. So you already have all the buffs from Hallowed from your first attack. You're getting all those buffs again with your second attack. And now that you've leveled up, you now drain 1 from the enemy nexus for every 2 power I have. So you have a massive amount of power. That means your skill is going to do a ton of damage, drain an absolute massive amount, healing up your nexus. You can use Illudens to double the amount of damage you're dealing just with your skill. And then I suggest also using a Troll King's Crown, so that with your massive attack, it's not getting wasted on the blocker, it's going through and hitting the nexus. She is probably the most consistent and most powerful game-ending champion, and so she's my pick for the #1 best game-ending champion in Runeterra. Thank you so much for watching that whole video. Definitely let me know down below what your thoughts are on this list. If you have any other champions you think work better as a game-ending champion, let me know. I know there are definitely a lot of champions that kind of fit this same role. I just tried to choose some of the top 5 that are the most consistent, but I know there are many champions that could work for this. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a great day.